Hey everybody. So I wanted to come to you today with another discovery, and it just seems like things just keep falling into place. Before I go into the discovery, I want to give you a little bit of history in case you are new to my channel. I have been discovering things about the Orion Nebula that have tied us to our past, some things that are very important about where we come from and what our reality is pretty much made up of. Just to let you know real quick, I'm not going to go through a lot of this stuff, but what I have discovered is that these master painters are using the Orion Nebula in a lot of their paintings. You can scan through some of the stuff you'd like to in my Facebook folder, and you'll see that all these paintings are showing the Orion Nebula, especially the trapezium area. And in the next video that I make, I'm going to show you what I have found about the Gnostics and what they saw the Orion Nebula as well, which actually goes into a little bit of John Lamb Lash's stuff. And so I'm going to reference some of his material in the next video. But you can see that these guys have discovered that there's for whatever reason they have been connecting to the Orion Nebula with their mind's eye. They have been doing this throughout the centuries. These are just some paintings of the Orion Nebula inside the Church of the Jesu, and I have found, for example, this is the Barnard's Loop that goes around the Orion Nebula, and this is the Barnard's Loop in the Church of the Jesu. But these guys did it in so much detail that it's you can't really deny that this is what they're doing, and I've proved this over and over again. Now, additionally, what I have done is I have showed that in my previous video about the ancient Egyptians and the afterlife and the celestial Nile. Okay, the celestial Nile turns out to be the Orion Nebula trapezium, and I've proved this down fractally down to very high detail, as you can see here. The interesting thing about it is that recent development shown on the land actually mimics what is inside the Orion Nebula. Here are blown up areas of the land that's actually developed near the Nile, and you can actually see that this carries over into the Orion Nebula. So what I do is I take the original picture, I take the Orion Nebula, and for what I've done here, let me just show you in this larger picture here. This is the Nile, this is the Orion Nebula trapezium area, and what I've done in these various areas is I've just sectioned out that area and compared them. So you can see that we're, like for instance, this one right here is really this area right here, okay? The Nile area that you're looking at right here is just this bottom part right here, and so on. And so I've proved this stuff down to a very high detail. Okay, so we're looking at a law of correspondence, which has to do with as above, so below, as below, so above. And I believe the Orion Nebula plays a part in our collective consciousness. We're going to go into that into the next video. So here's another zoom in, look at it right here. Here's another one, and so forth. Okay? So now I wanted to show you that, for example, I've also shown that what we've also been seeing in these paintings, the Ark of the Covenant, these various areas, this is showing has to do with the mind. Because in the Kabbalion, we see that the universe is mental, held in the mind of the all. This is from ancient Hermetic philosophy right here. The universe is mental, held in the mind of the all. So the universe apparently consists of minds upon minds upon minds. Think of those Russian dolls, for example, where you can put one Russian doll inside the other. Well, the infinite living mind, which would be at the very, very top of creation, would be a mind, and then inside that mind would be other minds and so on, until you get down to where we are. And we are actually the creation of, or the dream of, a collective mind, I believe, that sits above us, and I believe that that mind is the Orion Nebula. And once again, I said I'll go into that into my my next video. So So what I'm finding here is all this stuff about the mind is actually falling into place. If you go out into the Orion Nebula, you take a look at any high-res version, amateur or NASA's, you'll find these same things, and you'll find a direct correlation between the mind and what you actually see in our brain. Now, Leonardo da Vinci talked about the analogy of the human body being an analogy of the workings of the universe. Here's another example right here where you have the thalamus and you have the fornix, which goes across. This is an unaltered version right here. I've just got it circled and then I've got it highlighted over here for you. This is the fornix, this is the thalamus, and if you want to compare that to Michelangelo's painting here of the Orion Nebula, he corresponds the thalamus to the heart of God, and if you go look up thalamus, you find that the thalamus is also called the heart of the soul. So all this is kind of falling together. So in my latest one, what I've found is, and here's other paintings showing that the universe is mental, okay, and in Michelangelo's painting of creation of Adam, you can see that he's not touching Adam's finger because this is like a synapse in the brain, okay. So then what I did was I discovered that the Orion Nebula right here that you see, it overlays on top of the Nile, just like I showed you earlier, to a very high degree, fractally down to a very detailed level. And I decided to zoom out and take a look to see if the Nile had anything to do with the nervous system, and sure enough, it follows the nervous system just like the spinal cord does. So then I noticed that, for example, right here that you're looking at on the Nile is where the pyramids are located. The pyramids are located, that would be right here as far as the brain goes. And so I couldn't figure out the connection to that. So I happened to Skype my good friend Santos Bonacci and show him what I've been doing so far, and he is like, "Oh mate, looks like you may be onto something big." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, this area right where you've got your finger in where the Great Pyramids are is where the pyramids of the brain are." And I said, "What do you mean, the pyramids of the brain?" He said, "Yeah." So he showed me a picture and I created this diagram for everybody to see. So let me just pull that up real quick. This area right here that falls in line with the overlay of the trapezium, okay? This area right here that falls in line with the nervous system just so happens to be where what they call the medullary pyramids of the brain. Here they are right here. Here are the pyramids of the brain. And well, I'm still researching what this has to do with, but they fall right in line where the Great Pyramids are. Now all of this cannot be just coincidence. Okay, these are actually the pyramids of the brain, and they're located exactly where they should be, right here in this whole overlay with the Orion Nebula and the nervous system and everything. Down here what I've got for you is just some comparisons you can see. This is the fornix right here. This is the thalamus. This is the amygdala right here. And then over on this side you have the same thing. Let me just go ahead and zoom out just a little bit for you. So you have the fornix right here, which is the same as the fornix right here. You have the thalamus, which is right here. You have the amygdala, which is this thing that you see right here. Okay, and then you have the reptilian brain, which I pulled out for you before, which looks like this dragon. This is way too much coincidence that we have going on right here. But in addition to that, we have these pyramids. And the only place in the brain where the pyramids of the brain are located are exactly where we're talking about right here on this overlay. And they're called the medullary pyramids. And they have something to do with the functionality of right-left brain, because there's something called decussation of the pyramids right here. And so what I've seen so far is it has to do with motor skills and things like that, but I think there may be something more to it. It definitely has something to do with right-left functionality of the brain. Here are the pyramids right here, and obviously you can see where they're located right here, they're located in the same place. So all this to me is not a coincidence. I don't think it should be to you either. There's something going on here that's very interesting. There's definitely a law of correspondence to be looked at here, as you can see, and with the overlays done all the way down fractally. So things just keep falling together, and so in my next video I'm going to show you some more about what I've discovered about the Orion Nebula apparently and its function generally. But I wanted to bring this to you because it keeps these things keep falling together, folks, and these things do not happen as a coincidence. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will talk to you soon.